Can you introduce your name first?
Yes. Oh, my name is Anita Fox. It used to be Anita Boyko. My parents' name is Fred and Helen Boyko. My grandparents' name was Joseph and Sophie Waltuck, and Caroline and Aaron Boyko. My grandparents, my father's parents, lived near Vienna, and it was a beautiful, beautiful place. It was a large building they had retired into with much ground, and I loved to be out there. When I was out there, I was like a little tomboy. I had leather pants, and I was running around barefoot, and in the city, I had to be a little lady. I had patent leather shoes, I had to wear gloves, and so on. My childhood, my summers were out there in the country with my father's parents and many other children in the family. We were a big family, a big happy family. And in this way, I grew up with a big family, and then suddenly in March of 1938, we had Sabbath dinner with my grandparents in Vienna. And my grandpa always used to listen to the radio to hear the news and then discuss it with the people who had come for the Shabbat dinner. And this night, he turned on the radio and he listened. He had earphones. They had no real radio at the time. His earphones, and his face became pale, and he started sweating. And he was talking to the adults, and I did not know what was going on. The only thing I knew was that the adults were very upset. We left early, and that was, my grandparents lived right across the street from the armory. And when we went downstairs, there was a big flag with a swastika on the armory already, and all men, Nazis in Nazi uniform, were up and down, marching up and down. And we had to go home in the street. They wouldn't let us go home on the sidewalk anymore. So we went home, and it was very frightening. And then time passed, and my father had had a heart attack and fixed, in order to stay in our apartment on the 4th floor, he wanted to keep that apartment because it was very beautiful, and he built an elevator to go up. So it was a very beautiful building with an elevator, and the Nazis wanted that building for the newspaper. So they came soon after, and they told us, out, at gunpoint, 3 big Nazis in uniform, you have to be out of here in 3 days. So we didn't know where to go, but we moved in with my grandparents down the street. It was Maria Theresienstraße in Vienna. And my grandparents lived across the street from the armory. And so we lived there. We had our things in a few big trunks. And time passed, and then came Crystal Night, November 10th. And the superintendent came to warn us. My grandpa had always been very good to everyone, and also to the superintendent. And he was a friend of ours, and he came to say, put the child to sleep, go to sleep yourself. No lights, no noise, do not open the door, just let us pretend the apartment is empty. And my grandpa came in, he put me to sleep. He sang his lullaby, Rozinkas mit Mandelen, and I said the Shema, and then he stayed with me. He didn't go out, but he sang Rozinkas mit Mandelen. And I said the Shema over and over and over again until we heard the banging and the thrashing and the screaming of the other people in the building. And it was very frightening. And my grandpa stayed with me and kept singing Rozinki's mit Mandolin. And I kept saying the Shema until about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. It quieted down and you couldn't hear anything anymore. We didn't dare to move. The next morning, the superintendent came to let us out of the apartment, to tell us that everything was all right now. And we saw that on our door, there was no Jew. All the other doors had a big J for Jew on the door. And we were the only Jews left in the building. Hashem took care of us because across the street was the armory, and all the Nazis thought that all the Jews were out of the building. They didn't know, they did not come to check anymore for Jewish people because the building was right across the street from the armory.
I'm just making sure it's
It was
okay.
right across the street from the armory. And, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they did not think that there were any Jewish people left. And so I had my little guinea pig, my only companion, which I loved very much, and I spoke to it, and it kept me company until the Nazis, until the time came when we were trying to come to America. We waited and waited. We never knew, would tomorrow come? Would tomorrow come? Would we be able to get out? And then my mother had to stand in line to get permission, to get our passport and to get permission for us to leave Vienna. And she came home with a wound on her hands and wound on her legs because she had to scrub the sidewalk while she was waiting with very strong solution. Just scrub the sidewalk just because in the winter time, it was January, it was February, it was cold, and they took the clothes off and she had to scrub. But she never complained, she never said anything, until finally we got permission to leave Vienna. But my mother did not want to leave her parents behind. They had permission to go to Switzerland because my grandpa was Polish quarter and he was not allowed to come to America until later on. My grandma was Viennese quarter, but she did not want to go without my grandpa.
Was she able to go to Switzerland?
Yes, she went to Switzerland. Now what happened before was on November 10th, Crystal Night. My grandpa was on the stock exchange on Crystal Night. When the Nazis came in, they did Jews, papers, value papers have no value. Nothing, zero. And my grandpa was a very wealthy man. And he gave everyone, he bought all the stocks, everything from everyone for the same price that he had sold it to them for. And he saved many lives that way because many people committed suicide. They had nothing from one day to the next. But my grandpa was very good. And my grandma, he went to the phone and he called everyone. My grandma said, Papa, what are you doing? And my grandpa said, Bible, sweetheart, if the Nazis will take me, if Hitler will take me, I want to have nothing. I want to be naked. If Hashem will help, if I will get out, Hashem will help. And so it was. They got out to Switzerland, and Hashem helped. So I left with my father a few days before my mother went. And I went to Paris because my father's brother was in Paris. And they too...
You went with your family and your parents?
My mother stayed with my grandparents and brought them to Switzerland. Now my uncle, we met my uncle in Paris. He was from Prague, from Czechoslovakia. And he too had to get out without anything, nothing. So we met my uncle, my father's brother, in Paris, and we waited for my mother. We waited and we waited, and she came 5 days later. We came out of Vienna a few days before they closed the border. That was very, very bad. And then afterward, no more. Afterward, we couldn't get out. And then in Paris, then we went to Le Havre, and we took the boat to come to America. And we came to America. Where is the boat? I don't know. Somewhere here is a boat. And the Normandy, the boat, we came on to America. And then we came to America, and we could not find an apartment because nobody would rent. We had no money. You have no money, no rent. So my mother and I, we went from house to house, house to house. Please, please, we need to live somewhere. No money, no rent. But my father was a portrait artist. And he painted many paintings. I will show you later. He painted many paintings. And many refugees who have nothing. They take the canvas, they roll it up, they put it in their clothes, because from their parents, from their children, we die in the concentration camp, and they come here, and the people who sent them affidavit are wealthy people. And they say, who did this beautiful, beautiful work? And they say, Mr. Boyko, I like to have my parents painted, I like to have my children painted, I like a picture of myself, my husband. Well, he's not here yet. So when we came...
That was your father or your grandfather?
That was my father. So when we came to America, there were many people already who wanted to have their portrait painted. And then my mother went from one place to another, no money, no rent. And then in Washington Heights, a beautiful apartment, a young lawyer came with, he rang the bell, and he opened the door, and he said, Mr. Boyko, I've heard the name, I like the work. And my mother showed him the picture, and she says, you will paint my children, you will paint my wife, you will paint me, you will paint my parents. And you can stay in the apartment because I just built a new house.
Oh. Where did your father learn to paint?
Woodman. In Vienna.
Vienna? He did it as a job or?
As a profession. He was a very highly educated, highly intelligent man, but his talent was painting. And he learned it he was an architect by profession, but he liked to paint, and he was very, very good at it. So when we came, then these people said, we have a house in Woodmere, and you can have the apartment. You can live in the apartment as long as you need to live until you can pay me rent. And so we lived in a beautiful apartment for quite a long time. My father took his studio in Carnegie Hall.
Wow.
And he was very, very well known and very, very, very busy. But my uncle came, is a doctor. My aunt came, was a doctor. My other uncle, doctor. His wife, a doctor. They have to study 4 or 5 years before they can practice. And they have to eat. They have 2 children, and they have to live somewhere. So my father pay apartment for the children and for study until okay, until they for 4 years, for 5 years, until they can make their own living. And in this way, my father helped many, many people, and he was very busy. I want to show you some of the paintings, many paintings that he painted here in America.
Sure, I'd love to see them.
Yes, I have pictures over there. Because the painting belonged to the person. The painting is not to say, I buy a painting. But a painting says, my mother, my father, I want a portrait. And then belong to the person. So my father was very busy, but we have no money because we have to feed so many other people. We have a big family and no money.
Was your uncle making money from being a doctor?
It took him 4 years, 5 years. He had to learn English, he had to study, take examination, and then finally passed the examination. And my uncle opened up at 625 Park Avenue. My father's best friend.
Here in Elizabeth?
What?
In
New York.
Manhattan.
New York City.
Manhattan.
And my uncle, my father's best friend was an ophthalmologist. He opened up across the street on Park Avenue. My aunt was a pediatrician. She opened up, became a pediatrician in Forest Hills, and so on and so on. And then they did very well. And then everybody was doing well. My father had colon cancer. Very, very sick. Terrible operation. No work. Sick, sick, sick. And then, for a long time. But in that, everyone else helped. My father and my mother helped everybody. So everybody helped us. And that was very good. And then time passed, and 4 or 5 years passed, and things became a little better. And then I was very lucky. I met my husband. He was a doctor, just starting out. No money, just resident, $45 a month. But very, very good, loved my parents. And we were getting married. And we thought, thank to Hashem, everything is all right. No more cancer. And we get married in June. And in September, my husband is a radiologist. X-ray.
Mm-hmm.
He said, everyone must have an X-ray. You want to see everyone in the family is healthy. And everyone had X-ray, and everyone was okay. Only my father had a little cancer in his lung. So that was a terrible, terrible blow. And at that time, many, many years ago, no operation. Today, you have cancer, out, and you're fine for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. At that time, cancer from here, the first primary, to here secondary, no operation, you wait to die. So for the first 3 years of our marriage, my father died. We watched him die. My husband worked and worked, and I worked and worked. I was a rehabilitation therapist. I helped people with polio. I helped people with no leg. People come back from the war, no arms, no legs. That's my work. And then my father died, and my husband was still doctor, studying, still no money. And then we come to Elizabeth.
What year is that?
That was in 56.
And why did you move here?
Because my husband had a job.
In Elizabeth?
In Elizabeth. He became a radiologist at the hospital.
And did you become close to Rabbi Teitz then?
No, we were in Elizabeth.
Downtown?
And, yeah, downtown. And my husband worked there and here. And work and work and work. And I was very busy. I work very hard. I have many patients. I go to New York, to New Jersey. Patients need much help, need a lot of help. And then we have 3 children. We have Serena, Danny, and Judy. 3 very sweet children. And sister.
Father, sister, okay.
And many of our friends, many of my friends from school, they go to the concentration camp. They die.
People you knew from as a kid?
Oh, sure.
They
Yes.
couldn't get out in time?
I have a little book. And when they closed the school, and I had to leave school, and I have a little book where my friends write little poems, little greetings, little things. And many of them died in concentration camp. But we could not get out, you did not know.
Did you warn any of your community families? Well, you said that night at Kristallnacht,
yes.
you weren't labeled as a Jew, they didn't know you were there. But all your other friends in the community, what happened? They were attacked?
Many went to concentration camp, many went out of Vienna, and our friends disappeared.
So you didn't see any of your friends after Kristallnacht?
No, we were in the apartment,
okay.
No more.
Just trying to get an idea.
Yeah.
So after that, after Kristallnacht, before the borders were closed up, you made contact with none of your friends? You couldn't tell them to leave or anything?
No.
Did people advise you to leave, or it was of your own accord?
I was 12, 13 years old.
So it was your parents' decision to leave?
Yes, yes.
Because people in other countries, they didn't know to get out.
We sit in the apartment, and boom, 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 boom. Nazis come in with guns. Oh yes, there was a newsman that all the Jews have to take all the safe deposit box, for ring, for bracelet, for necklace. You have to take everything out. So my grandma...
Were you allowed to keep it?
I will tell you. My grandma went to the bank, opened the safe deposit box, and everything out to take home. And the next day, the Nazis come, gone. Where's all your stuff? And they put it in the pocket. Money, jewelry, everything. And they walk out.
This was your mother's stuff?
My mother's stuff, my grandmother, in Vienna. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And what else can I tell you?
So when did you meet up with your grandparents?
About a year later.
After the war?
No. During the war. Here, they come to America.
They were able to come from Switzerland to America?
My mother was a dynamo. My mother managed to get them to America. Somehow, I don't know how. But she managed. But my grandma was Viennese, my grandpa. But maybe because my grandparents helped so many people. People help us. And then they come here.
Right.
What else can I tell you?
Do you want to show me the paintings of your father?
Yes, oh yes. Oh, Oh, all right, I will show you the paintings.
Okay.
This is the kind of work he did.
He drew these by hand?
Hmm?
These are done by hand?
Like this.
Really?
Looks
Wow.
like a picture.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It looks like a photograph, you know?
Yeah, well, this is the photograph.
This one
of
looks
the
just like a...
Yeah.
This would fool
But
me.
you see, it's the frame.
Wow.
See?
How long did it take him to draw one?
To paint,
Yeah, to paint it.
it depends. 1 month, 2 months.
Wow.
Very careful. But you see, now this painting, he was already very sick with cancer. And he could no longer paint people. You see, he did this.
It's like perfect work. He was very talented.
Yes.
Wow.
This I have inside.
Yeah.
And I will show you after. This, we needed money. So he sold it. And I want to buy it back.
That's a sculpture?
Well, I will show you. Yes, I have it.
You wanted to buy it back and...
I want it, but the people will not sell it. The people will not give it back to me.
You tracked it down later on?
Oh, I know who.
Oh, you know who sold
bought
it to?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Is that your mother?
No, it's just a portrait. A portrait. And this is,
Looks like an army uniform.
yeah, portrait. Portrait. See, all portrait.
Amazing artist.
And here we have an exhibit. He had always on 57th Street in New York, he had a one-man show, and people would come, formal dress, long gowns, and people would say, what is going on? Oh, Mr. Boyko has a one-man show, beautiful, beautiful. And people would come in and look. You see?
And you made a lot of money this way?
Yes.
Wow.
But he was sick. He died when he was 57 years old.
What year was that?
In 51. 51. And then I met my husband, and then I get married, and we come to America.
Your father died in America, right?
Oh yes.
Right.
See, there are many, many, many paintings, all different. And you say this, look, twins. See, little twins.
Are they portraits of real people?
Of course.
Right. I'm saying, do you know them?
Oh yes, of course, because I had to go to the studio and play with them and sing with them. And,
while he painted?
Yeah, my mother too. My mother, I did. See, this is a lovely lady. This, Mrs. Cohen. Beautiful, but it's, lifestyle, like this. Like this.
Huge.
Beautiful. And here.
None of these are originals, right? These are photographs of the paintings?
Of the painting, that's right.
And all these paintings are sold?
Of course. It's like, you want to have a painting, you come, Mr. Boyko, I want to have my painting.
And he paints.
And he paints, and you sit, you pose, and he paints you, okay? See? It's a sad world. They have destruction, and it's not good. It would be much better for the whole world if everybody would say, now we don't shoot, we don't bomb, but we build together.